Hey y'all, TRG here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the potential for 10 plus inches of rainfall in southern Florida over the next 5 days, as well as we go into next week, the potential for flash flooding along the Gulf shoreline in the southern United States. We'll also be mentioning the potential for severe weather for tomorrow and other days in the near future. Let's go right into today's video. Alright, let's take a look at your 7-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center as of 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. There is now a AOI, as we anticipated, that is now west of Florida and is going to be moving very slowly over the next 4 to 5 days up towards just the southern portion of North Carolina off the coastline of South Carolina as well. So far, they've designated this with a 10% chance of formation in the next 48 hours and a 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days. I don't see anything too over the top with this. I don't think we'll see a hurricane or tropical storm. I don't even think we'll see a depression out of this. The main issue is really just going to be the potential for flash flooding, maybe even historic flash flooding over southern Florida over the next 5 days. And then we really shouldn't need to talk about it anymore after that. Now, what you cannot see on this map is a tropical wave that the National Hurricane Center has designated just barely to the west of the Lesser Antilles. Over the next 3 days, this is going to traverse through the majority of the Caribbean and then eventually get towards the Yucatan in about 4 days or so, where it will eventually move into the United States, and that's going to be our next threat for the potential of flash flooding. We'll probably have a risk for flash flooding in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and into eastern Texas. Could be as far as out there towards the southern tip, I should say, of Texas as well. But the main area will probably be Louisiana and Mississippi to look for the potential of flash flooding. So here's the anticipated rainfall totals for today from Tuesday at about 6 a.m. to Wednesday at about 6 a.m. We are anticipating the potential for just today alone with the anticipated threat of 4 to 5 inches of rainfall today. That rainfall is just now getting underway at about noon. That started. It's currently 2 p.m. as I'm recording this. That's why we had the new National Hurricane Center update. And then as we go into tomorrow, which is Wednesday, this rain's going to tamper off at least a little bit, but we're still anticipating 3-4 inches of rainfall, isolated 5 inches of rainfall tomorrow as well. Then as we go on into Thursday, that rain should drastically tamper off there, and we should see isolated amounts of 2 inches of rainfall as we go towards Thursday. Widespread inch of rainfall all the way from near the Tampa area, pointing all the way down south towards, well, obviously Key West and as far south as you can go. And then finally, as we go into Saturday, it should rapidly start to exit the region, and we should pick up just your average Florida rainfall, probably an inch of rain nearing the most. And again, this is going on into Saturday, but as we go into Sunday, you'll notice that next tropical wave appears on their outlook, and you could see the potential for just a few isolated instances of an inch of rainfall here on their day 5 outlook, which is Sunday. And then Monday's where it really starts to kick up with the potential of widespread 2 inches of rainfall. And then this is far out, so this is probably going to change, but Wednesday they also have the potential for 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Probably mainly going to focus out there, like I said, in Mississippi, Louisiana, but you can see, like I said, it could go into the far southern tip of Texas, so we're just going to continue to keep an eye out in this entire area for the potential of flash flooding as we go through the next week here. And then we may even have another tropical wave beyond that time frame, but beyond a week out, we really just don't even want to look at because it's going to be so inaccurate and it will change. Before we continue with today's video, I ask that you guys please go ahead and share this video with your family, friends, social media. Hit that like button to help spread weather awareness, and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell set to all if you are new. Let's go right on into the rest of today's video. We'll look at a week out on our model runs just to see what they have, but for a minute here, I just want to show you guys the CPC outlook. So this is an official outlook here. They already have a large slight risk for the potential of heavy rainfall. Now, this is different than a slight risk for excessive rainfall. Slight risk for excessive rainfall, you can have multiple inches of rainfall inside a slight risk. A slight risk for heavy precipitation on, the day, gracious day. This is what, like 14-ish days out or so. I think they do 8 to 14 days out. This is from the 18th to the 24th here. And that is really far out. So this slight risk basically just means keep an eye on things. Once you see a slight risk appear in the southern Gulf coastline, most of the time that's going to mean, at least this time of year, the potential for a tropical wave, tropical storm, hurricane, whatever it may be. This is a slight risk, so it's nothing to panic about. We're probably going to end up with a couple inches of rainfall in the 18th to the 24th time frame. Just monitor it, keep a close eye on it, and I'll update y'all frequently on that. And then when this is actually going to be for the potential of severe weather on the 18th to the 20th. So again, if you missed our live stream yesterday. The pattern we're looking at is dangerous to potentially even deadly heat out here in the east, dangerous to probably not deadly heat out in the west, and then we should have a nice flow of a jet stream that goes just like this and should bring a lot of thunderstorms and a lot of potential severe weather events, especially up towards this neck of the woods. And then we'll have a high pressure that sits generally in this area, moves off to the east. So that high pressure is actually there right now. That's what's keeping our low pressure out here in the Gulf moving towards the, like I said, off the coastline of South Carolina. So that's why we're having a flood threat for the next 3 to 5 days. That high pressure is locking it in. And then once that high pressure exits, we're going to get a system that pulls up into the Gulf. And I drew that a little bit too far west. It should hit Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe even Alabama. And then again, we'll have severe weather on the north side. So hot in the west, hot in the east, very dry in the east, severe weather in the north, and tropical moisture. Shouldn't see any tropical storms, but just a lot of tropical rainfall in the southern U.S. So here's the day one outlook from the Weather Prediction Center. At the moment, we have a slight risk for excessive rainfall. Pretty surprised we don't have a moderate out towards like Cape Coral down through Key West. But at the moment, they've maintained a level 1 and a level 2 out of 4 for the potential of excessive rainfall today. Tomorrow, they have the same ordeal, level 1, level 2. Day 3, level 1, level 2. Day 4, guess what? Level 1, level 2. Guess what day 5 has? It's actually going to be a level 1. So hopefully that flood threat starts to decrease as we go towards Saturday, Sunday. It should begin to decrease quite a lot. So thankfully, we no longer have 5 straight days of excessive rainfall on their outlook. So that is good news. And we also have that marginal you'll see back up here on Saturday. Now, we don't know exactly about the severe weather potential out there. Some models have it Saturday, other models have it Sunday, and I think the latest GFS, we'll take a look at it, has it all the way for Tuesday, Wednesday for the severe weather threat. So it looks like there's a lot of predictability issues up there in the north central US with the potential for severe weather, but we'll go ahead and dive on into that towards the latter half of the video. So here is a generally close look at what we're seeing right now. We've got some rain over Texas, potentially causing isolated strong storms. Rain up there, Wisconsin, Minnesota, some very heavy rain with the potential flash flooding out there in southwestern Florida that is ongoing right now. And then we have a tropical wave out here, like I said, west of the Lesser Antilles, generally in that vicinity. And again, we also have our tropical wave here that's going to, over the next 5 days, move up to the coastline, or I should say off the coastline of southern South Carolina. And that is basically your rundown. I mean, we don't really have much else going on in the US, so there's not like anything too over the top. And I actually just noticed, we're gonna have to go right back to the National Hurricane Center. So they just updated the Eastern Pacific outlook, and I literally just saw this on my other monitor. We got an AOI in the Eastern Pacific as I'm making this video. So for the next 7 days, this has a 20% chance of a tropical depression forming. So just keep an eye on that. We'll look at that on the models. I haven't seen that whatsoever, so we'll look at that on the models now. All right, I'm very intrigued to see what this is going to be. So they have it for the next 7 days, and there you go. Wow, you actually get a little low pressure that sneaks in the potential for formation here. That's actually in the next 48 hours, so they may up that area. So we'll just keep an eye out for the potential of development out on the coastline areas of the Yucatan Peninsula, which is actually, this is south of the Yucatan Peninsula. It's going to be southeastern Mexico there that we'll keep an eye out for the potential of tropical depression formation there. And let's go ahead and just bring our attention right back to Florida after that interruption there. So again, we're going to see that flash flooding occurring at this moment out here in southern Florida. That continues throughout the rest of today into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow evening, it picks up again. The next day, June 13th, still pouring rain out there. And then the 14th into the 15th looks to calm down, but we still get some rain there. And then by the 15th into the early morning of the 16th, it looks like Florida should be hopefully flood threat free, I hope. And once again, we'll keep an eye out for the tropical moisture. You'll see that wave. Let's just bring it back. So there's that wave moving quickly up to the Yucatan Peninsula. There it goes right on into the Gulf. And this is June 17th, the morning of June 17th. It hits into Louisiana and Texas. Now, keep in mind, for those of you who've been here for a while, the GFS model actually had this becoming a tropical storm about 5 days ago or so. It pointed towards this system we're dealing with now, and this system in 5 days being a tropical storm. And neither one of those scenarios look likely. I'd be shocked if we end up with a named storm at all in the month of June. Even the latter half of June doesn't look that good for tropical development. So again, that flash flooding continues there, or the potential for flash flooding could continue there Monday, Tuesday along Louisiana, Texas, into Mississippi, maybe even getting into Tennessee. And then as we go into Thursday, it should tamper off at least somewhat. And then you always know we got to have something on the end of the GFS model run now. Unlike yesterday, this isn't a Category 4 hurricane slamming on into the Gulf coastline. Yesterday, it had it as a Category 4. Absolutely insane for the GFS model. But then again, it is the GFS model. So we're just going to keep an eye out for another potential tropical wave. Matter of fact, that's already designated out there. You can see it there in the main development region, so we'll keep an eye on that as it eventually goes towards the Gulf Coast, but that's at least a week out. I mean, typically it takes a week for storms to get from, the African coastline all the way up through the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, back into the Gulf of Mexico. So it should be at least another 5 to 7 days before we really start to see any type of impacts from that next system. So 3 systems to watch. We've got the southern tip of Florida, that system. We've got another system out here towards the Lesser Antilles, and then another area down here in the main development region. And sure, I guess we'll throw in the Eastern Pacific for extra credit there as well. So 4 systems to keep an eye on. I don't think any of them are going to pose any major threats other than the potential for major flash flooding today, tomorrow, and especially on into the next 3 to 4 days in southern Florida. But other than that, really just isolated flash flooding outside of the system for the next 3 days in southern Florida will be a possibility. This next system, I don't think that's going to have the potential for 10 inches of rainfall in southern Florida. This one, it's too far out to say, but it will probably be nearly the same ordeal, isolated 2 to 3 inches of rain possible somewhere along the Gulf coastline. And we'll keep an eye out for a potential landfall of a tropical wave. I wouldn't say a tropical depression at the moment out there in the Eastern Pacific. So just briefly, I want to show you guys the wind shear. This is one of the main reasons why I don't expect a hurricane over the next month or so. For, I should say, the rest of June, matter of fact. There's just too much wind shear all over the place, so I'm not anticipating any type of hurricane by any means. Here's the relative humidity from the 300 to 700 millibar levels. A lot of dry air infiltrating the main development region. Now on into the severe weather side of things. Here's your day 1 outlook from the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center. We've got multiple level 1 threats out here and then a level 2 threat back towards Texas. Main threat today, wind and isolated small hail. That's really it. Tomorrow, we're going to be live for probably about 3 hours or so as we will be tracking the potential for a couple tornadoes out here in Minnesota, down through North Dakota, South Dakota, into Iowa and Nebraska, back up towards Wisconsin. So quite a large area under the gun for tornadoes tomorrow. Wind threat is also going to be a bit of an issue, isolated 70-mile-an-hour winds. And then at the moment, the main threat is anticipated to be large hail, possibly around the realms of 2-inch in diameter. Also want to briefly mention for tomorrow, they are talking about adding a enhanced risk 30 SIG for the potential of 3-inch hail for tomorrow. However, at the moment, there is a bit of uncertainty exactly where storms are going to fire and where they will be the most intense, but we will most likely end up at some point with an enhanced risk for large hail tomorrow around 3-inch in diameter. So hail being the main concern, followed by tornadoes, and then isolated damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour looks to be the main issue tomorrow. But here's your day 3 outlook. We do have a 15% chance for overall severe weather. I'm unsure what to think about this at the moment. It looks like models have been all over the place. I really just want to wait until we get closer to say more information about this, but it looks like all hazards will be possible. We're just going to have to wait until we get closer to figure out the magnitude of those severe hazards. Now let's jump on into the GFS ensemble supercell composite here. So let me just back this up just a little bit so you can see this is Wednesday, and gracious day, that is a large area for tornado ingredients. My word. We'll of course look at the HRRR and the NAM3K for tomorrow just to keep you guys updated with that. And then as we go into Thursday, I think the most concentrated corridor of severe weather will be exactly where we have that slight risk, if not a little bit more off to the south and west out towards Kansas. We'll just see, but again, I really want to wait for more information on that. And then after that, our next big system to watch should be Saturday, but again, this is a lot of uncertainty. Saturday, we've got a big area of potential tornado ingredients. Same goes for Sunday and probably, Monday too, as well as maybe even into Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looks like severe weather is going to continue for the rest of probably June, honestly. It shouldn't be as notable. I really hope, but we're definitely going to have a very active Northern Plains season. You can see throughout the entirety of the GFS ensembles here, we have just a bunch of supercell composite that continues to pulse up out here in the Northern Plains, maybe even moving on into the western Midwest portion of the U.S. So a main threat to keep an eye on is probably going to be tomorrow, and after that, the uncertainty just seems to be too high. Really just going to have to wait until almost the day of the threat to depict exactly how high end of a threat it will be. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see the National Weather Service highlight an area of interest on either the day 6 or 7 or maybe even the day 8 outlook as we go into tomorrow, but at the moment it just seems like predictability is too much of an issue, but I still wouldn't be surprised if we see a 15%. Let's go ahead and pull out here on the HRRR 12Z here to tomorrow, and the HRRR is definitely interesting. It has this messy cluster of thunderstorms west of Minneapolis and some discrete supercells out in front of that east and south of Minneapolis. And then as we go into the evening hours, this rapidly grows upscale into a line of potential damaging winds. And then we see additional storm development towards 7 o'clock, and these look very significant, at least depicted on the HRRR 12Z. Let's go ahead and just move right on into your NAM 3 kilometer. I have not looked at this just yet, so we're going to see what the NAM has. Has that morning convection, or I should say more of afternoon convection, and it reignites the evening convection well off to the northwest up in South Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, and that rapidly becomes a big threat for severe weather across most of Minnesota. And then again, just like the HRRR had, it grows upscale into a line of damaging winds as we go into tomorrow night. All right, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in another video and or live stream. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, watch severe weather in the tropics. Goodbye.